Hello and welcome back to the channel. We have got a sick video planned for you guys today, but first let me grab my oats, the Oat King as I like to call myself, and obviously the best flavour of Monster. As you know, I say every single vlog, the original green sugar-free Monster. There's nothing better than that. Because today I'm officially 3.5 weeks out from my first ever bodybuilding show, and I'm going to be taking you through a pool day because last week it was absolutely atrocious. I had a really shit week of sleep. No idea why. Every single night on the dot, every single morning, sorry, on the dot, waking up for a fat piss. And I always go to the toilet before I go to bed, but for some reason, yeah, just needed and piss every time. And then I'd go to sleep for an hour, wake up at 5 because my days normally start at 7. Clients from 7 and then finish at 8 o'clock, meal prep, go to bed and repeat. But let's just get this sweet sound on video. Oh, sweet nectar, mate. So yeah, pool day. Today is going to be a big one. We have on the cards, I'm going to grab my logbook up, a very big session. It's one of my biggest sessions of the day, of the week. So we have reverse crunch, an RDL, an S single arm pull down, chest supported row, adductor, hammer curls, reverse fly, incline curl, and that's it. But last week, because I had such bad sleep, my RDLs were terrible. I actually dropped by like 2 to 3 reps. So I went from like 6 to 4 reps. And at this stage of prep, when you're 3.5 weeks out, it's normal for that to happen, mainly because you're lighter. So the percentage of weight difference is heavier, and those normal weights that I'd normally be able to hold the reps on or increase reps on become increasingly more difficult to do it. So I actually am going to be going a bit lighter today with my RDLs just to preserve my fatigue management, but also to make sure that I can still put an adequate amount of stimulus through my hamstrings and also get a solid session in. So I'm going to tuck it into my pre-workout and then we'll make our way down to the gym. But these oats are absolutely fantastic. I recommend, or like always on my full day of eating vlogs, to make them the night before, put them in the fridge overnight, especially if you're on a diet, and it's like solid like a cake. So it's going to take me a while to get through this. I have had this morning my omelette, and I've also had about 2 litres of water already. So I'm adequately fueled, I'm ready to go. And it's one of those days where you've woken up, you feel energized, and you're absolutely buzzing to get in the gym. So hopefully we can carry it into the session and maintain numbers. That's basically what I'm trying to do at the moment, going in with every mentality of every session with it of like, I'm there to still grow muscle. I'm there to absolutely train to as close to failure as possible, because without that, I'm going, you know, you can go into the session and just wing it or not put much effort in, half-ass effort, and then you risk muscle loss, and we don't want that. We want to go onto stage feeling fucking jacked. So that's the mentality you want to be going to every single session, especially in a deficit, even in a growth phase. You're there to fucking build muscle, so put some damn effort in. This weather needs to decide what it's doing. 1 minute it's sunny, 1 minute it's cloudy, 1 minute it's freezing. I just had to rush back home very, very quickly and grab my joggers because it's too cold for shorts. And then I put my keys down and I misled where my keys are, and now I'm a bit late for the gym. And I do this all the time. I lose my keys, my phone, my wallet. I remember at school, I lost my house keys for a full year once. My mum told me to look at my bag. I went back to school, went to reception, no one handed any keys in, so I had to get some new ones cut. And then the year later, I was chucking that same bag out because I was getting a new one, and obviously have sifting through all my old paper and mouldy shit that I had at the bottom of the bag, and there they were the whole time. I even did that search at the bottom. Typical guy look, probably what I did. I've also lost a school shoe as well. Fuck knows how I used to do that. I think maybe it's because you go from PE into normal, or you go from swimming into football or whatever it is, and you just misled your shoe. I think I actually ended up taking someone else's shoe home once as well. It's just nuts. So I have like, at the moment I have like pockets for certain things. So my left hand pocket's my phone, right hand pocket's my keys, back pocket is my wallet. And if I swap them around or have too many in one pocket, I panic like mad. I'm patting down myself. I'm like, oh shit, where's my phone? Where's this? Where's that? and I just delay myself. And this is why I'm running late for a lot of stuff, because I just lose my mind. And I think I'm going to put it down to the fact that it's prep brain. I'm 3.5 weeks out. My mind is, elsewhere on a lot of stuff at the moment. It's just tunnel vision of getting the steps in, getting my cardio in, getting my training in, sleeping as much as I can or when I can, because I do sleep pretty shit. Like I said earlier, like my sleep generally is quite bad last week. And I think it's just something I've been so used to, is I'd always stay up playing Xbox, playing Skate 3 or Call of Duty to the endless hours of the morning, or watching Power on Netflix at uni till like 4 a.m. and then deciding to do uni work. So I'm pretty sure I'm a night owl. I prefer kind of going to bed late, waking up later, or starting work later and finishing later. I've always been like that. So, and I found it out from reading a book called Why We Sleep. And it's just interesting talking about like certain people, there's certain people circadian rhythm prefer to be more of an earlier starter. So starting earlier, finishing earlier. Some people prefer to be waking up later and finishing later. But often modern society is that we like to, work 9 to 5. So those people that tend to work a bit later, don't get into peak performance at work until a bit later. Don't know how true that is. Don't know how true it is, but based on how everything for me at the moment is running, it would make sense. It would make sense. So yeah, just on my way to the gym now. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the gym isn't busy at this time, because normally when I go to the gym on a Wednesday, it's packed full of students. So I normally have to do voiceovers. So hopefully it's not, and I can get full-blown talking through the session, every set that I'm doing, how I'm feeling, and just generally how much fucking weight I'm lifting at the moment, which is pretty shit. But if not, I will get a voiceover for you guys. But yeah, it should be a solid session. So let's get straight into it. Here we are then, kicking things off with the reverse ab crunch. One of my favorite exercises at the moment for ab development. Obviously, I know I'm in a deficit, so it's more about maintenance of muscle, but even in a growth phase, this is a really challenging exercise. The ab mat places you in that lengthened position, which you otherwise wouldn't get if you were just doing a standard sit-up. You may get it a little bit on the hanging leg raise, depends how far you let your legs hang behind you. But what you're trying to do here is really pause in that stretch, emphasize that lengthened range position. Now, I've got quite well-developed abs, so I'm only doing 2 sets of 12 to 15 reps here, mainly for maintaining my size of my abs during this prep, but also just to prepare my core for what's about to come. Like, I've got deadlifts next, so having a little bit more blood flow in that area is going to allow me to have a little bit more intra-abdominal pressure, which often people mistake. So when you're going into like deadlifts, squats, bench press to a certain extent, intra-abdominal pressure is not just tensing your core into your belt. Intra-abdominal pressure is filling up like a bean tin. Imagine if you, or a bean tin or a can of Coke, it's condensed in there, right? If you balanced a plate on a can of Coke, it wouldn't burst because of how dense it is. So from your bottom ribs to the top of your pelvis, there is nothing really protecting your spine. So you want to keep your core engaged, breathe into your nose, and hold that air in that space to create that intra-abdominal pressure. It's just going to give you more support. Now, on my deadlifts at the moment, because I am in a depth of preps, in the trenches, as we like to say, I am only doing 2 working sets. One is sub-maximal, and one is my working weight. Now, as I'm coming down in body fat and scale weight, these will become increasingly harder. So I'm trying to potentiate my fatigue. So doing 2 warm-up sets here, one of 80, one of 100, and then my last warm-up set is, or my sub-max set is at 115 for a set of 5. Now, this is quite challenging, and I probably should have gone about 110, 100 instead of 115, because it meant when I went into my working weight, which I did end up bringing down to 135 in the end, I only got 5 reps. But if we look at the comparison of like when I was lifting 140 before I started prep, I was doing about 5, 6, 7 reps with that. And now weighing 60 kilos and doing 135, the difference is almost still double my body weight, right? So essentially, I haven't actually really dropped any reps. I've just dropped strength in that area. And this is something you're going to find when you go through prolonged dieting phases. When you get to the business end of it, the challenging end where, energy's low, your motivation starts to dip, you'll find that your strength will go before anything else. And that's not muscle loss, that's just strength loss, and that's the difference. But this is why it's really important to still lift with intensity. So my working weight, I'm doing 5 to 8 reps here. So I find if I go past 8 reps, my erectors completely fry, and then I'm feeling it so much the next day, and I'll eat into my second pull day later on in the week. Moving into one of my favorite lat pull downs, single arm lat pull down. Now I've set this up slightly opposing my opposite hand. So there's 2 cables to this machine, this lat pull down, because it's a dual handle one. So I've set it on the opposite side to my working side. This is going to allow me to get a little bit more stretch across my body, lengthening my lat a little bit more, because we know that lat's attached to the upper arm, so they wrap around that rib cage. So allowing my shoulder to elevate, pause in the stretch and drive down, it's just going to get a bit more length and range challenge there. Now, I do take a couple of assisted reps, and this is the thing that when you train by yourself, it's okay to do that, as long as you're not losing that stability. As I go further into prep, especially into peak week, I will have to drop these because it's going to mitigate or produce more fatigue that I don't need. I don't need to go into my stage presence being inflamed in those areas. So I'll probably end up dropping these force reps. But for the time being, I really want to try to train close to failure, maintaining as much muscle as possible. Now, I used to do a top and back off set on these, but currently I'm only running 2 straight sets, 8 to 12, the same weight the whole way through, just to, again, manage my fatigue management. I don't really need the extra volume from doing high rep sets. My last pulling exercise is a chest supported row. Now I'm using the ab mat here to help with a little bit spinal flexion, just to get a bit more length across my mid traps, but also the penis shaped pads on the Metrics chest supported row are fucking horrible. It just causes so much pain on my sternum. So if you're using this, use a roll mat or an ab mat just to make it a little bit more comfortable. But what you will find, you have to adjust the chest pad just to edge it forward a little bit so you can reach the handles, but also so when you pull back, the handles reach that full opening position. If you're too close or too far back, you might not get that full opening. So you're not going to get that full rep, that full range of motion. Into some hammer curls. Now, something I've worked on this recently is actually just my alignment with my elbows. So you've got something called your carry angle, okay? So this is basically where, you imagine you're carrying shopping bags. We don't carry shopping bags directly glued to our side. Naturally, our elbows tend to float away. So this is why I'm kind of leaning over to one side a little bit, just to align my elbow and the arm path with how my elbow likes to flex in the position that it likes to be in. It's not me excessively swinging the weight, apart from the last, 2 or 3 where I'm hitting that kind of fatigue point. And this is, again, 2 sets, 8 to 12, again, training with high intensity across all my sessions at the moment, because higher volume training creates more fatigue. And this is something, when you're a lower body fat percentage, you don't want, because it's going to take you far longer to recover. You're not be able to give you all into every single session. And then I also finished with a incline cable bicep curl in the lengthen range. So again, challenging it by putting that bench at a slight incline so the cable starts at about 90 degrees to my wrist as I start to curl. And as I come over, it then drops off. This is again at the start of the week because it's going to place more demand, more recovery demand on my body. So if I put it at the end of the week and then I go into another bicep exercise, I'm going to be under recovered. Okay, so in my other pull day, I only run, again, more mid-range, short-range exercises in that session. So this is just to tax out a bit of leg range to get a bit more bicep volume. Again, 2 sets on here, 8 to 12. I've recently switched this from 12 to 15 because I don't really need the extra volume. And then I also finished off with some adduction and abduction just to kind of reset my hips after some heavy deadlifts. We are back in the crib, post-workout going in, 400 grams of Greek yogurt, some frozen mango, I think 45 grams, 18 grams of peanut butter. Now, I would probably have had this pre-workout, to be honest, but because I'm coming back home, this would not have fucking lasted in the Pure Gym lockers, especially with how fucking sweaty they are. Imagine the mold on that. But did anyone else used to watch like that MTV Cribs back in the day? I never had MTV as a channel on my Freeview TV back home, but I used to watch it a lot on YouTube back in the day when I was heavily invested in skateboarding, like P-Rod, Nigel Houston, obviously Tony Hawk's when he first introduced the skate park in his back garden. My MTV crib would be very, very boring. Clothes everywhere at the moment because I was in a rush for the gym earlier and lost my fucking keys. Disney teddies, skateboards I haven't put up on the wall yet. Yeah, that's the gist of my MTV crib. It would be cool to do one though, I think. I might try and do one at some point. Welcome to my MTV crib. But that session got freaking busy really quickly. Like I set up, did the reverse crunches, did the deadlifts, and then went into the lat pull downs. And yeah, tons of students. That's the nature of Plymouth. 2 universities, Mar Johns and Plymouth Uni. Mar John is the best uni. If you're in Plymouth, Mar John is the best. Obviously, I've got to be a little bit more 50-50 because my girlfriend is now studying at Plymouth Uni after studying at Mar Johns. But I'll always say Mar Johns is best because that's where I got my degree. But I want to finish today's vlog off with the fact that if you're going through a fat loss phase at the moment, you're trying to get peeled for stage or a photo shoot or just generally getting in shape for a holiday with the lads, for example, expect your strength to drop. Strength and muscle are an inverse relationship. Your strength will always go before your muscle does, providing you're training with enough intensity and enough training to failure, which is why like I logbook my sessions, and it can be really easy to get hooked up on the numbers in a logbook, especially as you're getting into the depths of a diet, or in the trenches, as bodybuilders like to say. Because let's say you weigh 80 kilos and you're lifting a 140 kilo deadlift. As you go further into that diet, let's say you get towards the end of the diet and you're at 60 kilos. The difference between your body weight and that weight on that bar is greater. So the ability to maintain those numbers is far harder than when you were heavier, when you had more strength. But that doesn't mean your muscles going. And this is where those mind games can come in of like, shit, I'm losing muscle, gonna ramp up the calories, cut the bulk short, and you're leaving progress on the table, okay? So when you're going into these sessions and you're starting to see reps coming down, you're having to reduce weight a little bit, that's normal. Completely normal thing to happen. What it is all about is making sure that you're stimulating that muscle to your best of your ability. Rep quality matters more than the weight that you lift on the bar. So if you're not pausing in the end ranges, if you're not contracting it from the very start of the rep to the end of the rep, this is where you can risk losing muscle in the long run, okay? Yes, it will take you a while to do that, but we wanna maximize that. So you still wanna go into every session, like I said earlier, with a mentality that you're there to build muscle, and you're there to train to failure and with a heavy enough intensity. But those weights will gradually reduce as you'll go further into a diet, into a prep. But the difference is still the same, if you know what I mean. So let's say you're at 140 deadlift at 80 kilos, but by the time you get to 60 or maybe 125, 130, you know, the difference is pretty much the same, right? So you are still maintaining numbers, okay? So expect your strength to drop. It's not muscle loss, it's strength loss. And if you enjoyed today's vlog, make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow along my journey to prep, because I'm going to be ramping up these vlogs as I'm drawing closer to stage.